Hello everyone, welcome to today's session. In the previous session, we have discussed about the different types of functions, right? We know what is a Cartesian product, relation and a function, and we have also discussed about the different types of function. To recall, the different types of functions are identity function, constant function, onto function, one-to-one function, one-to-one correspondence. Onto function is also known as surjective function, one-to-one function is known as injective function, and one-to-one correspondence is known as bijective function. Yeah, so keeping these types of function in mind, in this session we'll try to solve few of the problems on that and get the clear understanding on that. The first problem is on the board here. Find the nature of the following function defined on the set which consists of the elements 1, 2 and 3. The set is A. Okay, so the functions, the given functions are defined on the set A, which consists of elements 1, 2 and 3. Now let us consider the first function here, that is the function by name f defined on the set A. So here the function f consists of the ordered pairs 1, 1, 2, 2 and 3, 3. So for ease of understanding or ease of identification of the nature of the given function, we will try to write a arrow diagram now. This function f is defined on the set A and A itself. Okay, so I have the elements 1, 2 and 3 of the set A. Similarly, here even in the codomain I have the same elements. Okay, now this f is defined, that is 1 is mapped to 1 under the function f, similarly 2 is mapped to 2 under the function f, and 3 is mapped to 3 under the function f, right? So now what you can understand here, please identify carefully. If you observe, element A that belongs to set A is mapped to A itself. Okay, 1 is mapped to 1 itself, 2 is mapped to 2 itself, 3 is mapped to 3 itself. So when a element of a set is mapped to itself, then this type of function is called as identity function. So f is nothing but identity function. So how do you represent that, denote that? Please recall the definition of the identity function. There we had defined this. We take this particular denoting type for the identity functions. So f is a identity function because 1 is mapped to 1, 2 is mapped to 2 and 3 is mapped to 3 under the function f. Now we know that f is the identity function. Now let us consider the second function, that is g by name g. G has a ordered pair 1, 2, 2, 2 and 3, 2. So now observe carefully. I have the arrow diagrams here. I have the elements 1, 2 and 3 of set A. Similarly here 1, 2 and 3 of set A itself. Okay. Now under the function g, 1 is mapped to what? 1 is mapped to 2, 2 is mapped to 2 and 3 is also mapped to 2. So if you observe this mapping under the function g, then what do we understand that? What do we identify here? All the elements of set A or the domain or codomain is mapped to the same element, that is a constant element in the next set, that is A. So this is a constant element here. So we call this as a constant function. Please remember the definition of the constant function. It says that if the elements of first set is mapped to the same element or one element of the second set, then we call this particular function as a constant function. So g is a constant function. Next, consider the third function here, that is h. Okay, so h is a function defined on set A, so which has the ordered pairs 1, 2, 2, 2 and 3, 1. So we'll try to write the arrow diagram for that. A and A, which has the elements 1, 2 and 3. Similarly I have 1, 2 and 3 of set A, and H is defined. So 1 is mapped to what? 1 is mapped to 2, and 2 is also mapped to 2, and 3 is mapped to 1. Now this is the mapping that we can identify with the help of arrow diagram. So if you carefully observe this, what do we understand? What do we identify here? What do we identify? 1 is mapped to 2, 2 is mapped to 2, and 3 is mapped to 1. Is it an identity function? No, it cannot be an identity function, because 1 is not mapped to 1, 2 is mapped to 2, but 3 is again not mapped to 3. So it cannot be an identity function. What about a constant function? 1 is mapped to 2, 2 is mapped to 2, but 3 is not mapped to 2, rather it is mapped to 1. So it cannot be a constant also. Then what is the third type of function that we can check for? It is onto. Is it onto? What does the onto says that? Every element of the codomain should have a pre-images here. But what about the case here? This 3 here in the set A or the second set doesn't have a pre-image, so it cannot be a onto also. And what about 1 to 1? 1 to 1 says that all the elements of this set should have a different images. But what happens here? 1 has an image 2 and 2 as well as the image 2 itself. So this cannot be a 1 to 1 function also. So when it cannot be a onto, or even it cannot be a 1 to 1, 1 to 1 correspondence is also ruled out. So when do we have a 1 to 1 correspondence? When the function is both 1 to 1 and onto, then only it can be a 1 to 1 correspondence. But in this case it is not. So this is just a function. It does not fall under any of the type of 5 functions. So it is not identity, it is not a constant, it is not onto, it is not a 1 to 1. So in turn it cannot be a 1 to 1 correspondence also. So H is just a function. Yes, it is a function. We can accept it as a function. Next function what we have is P, where P consists of the ordered pairs 1, 2, 2, 3 and 3, 1. So by writing this arrow diagram, you can do it without the help of arrow diagram also, by manually inspecting the given ordered pair, set of ordered pairs. But just to make ourselves understand better and to ease the work, we are just taking the help of arrow diagrams. 1 is mapped to 2 under the function P. Next 2 is mapped to 3 under the function P, and 3 is mapped to 1 under the function P here. So please observe this. What do we identify? Is it identity function? If it was identity function, it should have been 1 mapped to 1, 2 mapped to 2, 3 mapped to 3, but that is not the case here. Fine. So identity function is ruled out. Is it a constant function, whether all the elements are mapped to a single element or the constant element? No, that is not the case. So constant function is also ruled out. Onto, what does the onto says that? What does onto says that? All the elements of this should have a pre-images. Does it have? Yes, it has a pre-images. And what about the 1 to 1 function? So this can be a onto. We will check for the 1 to 1 also. 1 to 1 says that every element of A should have the unique images. Is that the case? 2 has a unique image, 1 has a unique image, even 2 has a unique image, and 3 also has a unique image. So this can be a 1 to 1 as well as onto. When a function can be a onto function as well as 1 to 1 function, it can be a 1 to 1. It is 1 to 1 correspondence. So this P is onto 1 to 1 function so it can be, so it is 1 to 1 correspondence. One-to-one correspondence, right? So we have identified the nature of the different functions that is defined on the set A, F, G, H and P. Consider the next problem. Here let A be a set which consists of the elements 1, 2 and 3 and B be a set which consists of the elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The question follows: find whether the following function defined from A to B are one-to-one function or onto function or both. We will not worry about that. Okay. So we need to identify whether the given functions, the following functions are one-to-one or onto, or in case if it is both. Okay. So we will consider the very first function, that is f. Consider the very first function f, which has the ordered pairs 1, 1, 2, 3 and 3, 4. Now we will not take the use of arrow diagram, rather we will try to identify without the help of arrow diagram. Okay. So 1, 1. Please recall the definition. We will not worry about the identity function, we will not worry about the constant function, we will directly go to onto and one-to-one function. By the definition of onto, we know that it cannot be an onto function because the element 2 and 5 of the set B does not have the pre-images. So onto function, it is ruled out, it cannot be a onto function. Now can it be a one-to-one function then? What is the definition of one-to-one function? It says that all the element of domain or the set A should have a unique images. So is that the case? 1 has the mapping 1, 2 has the mapping to 3 and 3 has the mapping to 4. So all the elements of set A has the unique images in set B. So it is a one-to-one function. One-to-one function. So to conclude, you can just say that f, under the function f, all the elements of set A has the unique images in set B. So f is a one-to-one function, and element 2 and element 5 of set B does not have a pre-images in set A, so it cannot be a onto function. F is a one-to-one, not onto. Consider the next function, that is g, defined on the set A and B. So g is the next function that we will be considering, which has the ordered pairs 1, 1, 2, 3 and 3, 3. Okay, it is 3, 3. Now again we will try to avoid the use of arrow diagram, rather we will observe it in the other fashion. So what do we understand? One-to-one, all the elements of B should have a pre-images in A. Is that the case? Do you find all the elements of B, set B? I have the element 1 of set B, I have the element 3 of set B, again I have the element 3 of set B. I don't have 2, 4 and 5 of set B. So I don't have a pre-images for these 3 elements under the function g. So it cannot it cannot be a onto function. Similarly, what about now one-to-one function? What does the definition of one-to-one function says? That all the elements of set A should have a unique images in set B. Is that the case? 1 has the element 1, 2 has the image as 3 unique images, 1 has a unique image, 2 has a unique image, but when it comes here 3 is mapped to 3 again. So the uniqueness of mapping 2 to 3 is violated here, both 2 as well as 3. Element 2 of set A, element 3 of set A has the same image, so it is not a unique images. So this cannot be a one-to-one function also. So function f, to conclude, you can say that under the function f, not all the elements, for we can call it as element 2, 4 and 5 that belongs to set B does not have a pre-images, so it cannot be a onto function also. Ruled out. Then 2, 3 and 3, 3. So elements 2 and 3 that belongs to set A are mapped to the same element 3, so it cannot be a one-to-one function also. So one-to-one function is also ruled out. But still G is a function because it is internal relation and internal Cartesian product. So G is a function, but it is not a one-to-one function, neither it is not a one-on-to function. Next, we shall discuss one of the interesting topic, which is known as the pigeonhole principle. So the name itself is quite of interesting. So what do you mean by a pigeonhole? See, in the childhood or wherever we see the pigeons are actually brought up or taken care, there is a, we might have set up something like this, a carton box, and out of which there are few number of partitions made like this, and in these partitions the pigeons used to sit and they used to live around, correct? So we consider this as the pigeonholes, okay, and we expect certain number of pigeons to be present here. Consider these dots as the pigeon, okay. So certain number of pigeons used to reside in that pigeonholes and they used to live there. Now assume there are m number of pigeons, okay. If m number of pigeons, there are m number of pigeons and n number of pigeon holes, okay. We have n number of pigeonholes, and if m is greater than n, mean to say that there are more pigeons than the available pigeonholes, okay. If the condition is if m is greater than n, what happens now? If I want to make all the pigeons reside in these number of n number of pigeonholes, then what do we understand? I have n number of pigeonholes. For example, I have 3 number of pigeonholes here in this illustration. I have, for example, I will take m number of pigeons, that is 5 pigeons here, for example, okay. Then these 5 pigeons should reside in these 3 number of pigeonholes. Then we can easily say that there can be at least one pigeonhole where more than one pigeon resides, okay. There is at least one pigeonhole where there are more than one pigeon in it. So this can be also restated as if m pigeons occupy n pigeonholes where m is greater than n, okay. Please understand here, if m pigeons occupy n pigeonholes where m is greater than n, then at least one pigeonhole will contain more than one pigeons in it, okay. So this is basic funda. Please keep that in mind. When the pigeons are more than the pigeonholes, then at least one pigeonhole will have more than one pigeon residing in it, okay. This is the basic understanding of this particular principle. As the simple illustration here, take an example. If illustration for the above principle, if 8 children are born in the same week, okay. How many children are born? How many children born in the week? 8 children born in the same week. How many days a week consists of? 7 days in a week. Then we easily can say that in one of the day of the week there are more than one child that is born on the same day of the week. To generalize the given principle here, which we just stated, if m pigeons occupy n pigeonholes, then at least one pigeonhole must contain p plus 1 or more pigeons, okay, more pigeons in it, where p is defined by this. M is the number of pigeons and n is the number of pigeonholes. How do we prove this? To prove this particular thing, we'll prove this with the help of contradiction. So what happens in the contradiction? We'll try to contradict whatever the assumptions are. So here we'll try to take the conclusion part as false, okay. We'll take the conclusion part of the given argument as the false. So what is the conclusion part? It says that it should contain, the pigeonhole must contain p plus 1 or more number of pigeons in that. When we contradict this particular conclusion part here, we mean to say that no pigeonhole will contain p plus 1 or more pigeons in that. Mean to say that every pigeonhole will contain p or less than p number of pigeons in it. Okay? By contradiction, what we try to mean is every pigeonhole will contain, or each pigeonhole will contain p or less number of pigeons in it. Every pigeonhole contains p or less number of pigeons. Clear? Less number of pigeons in it. Then what is the total number of pigeons? Okay, by the total number of pigeons, so the total number of pigeons will be less than or equal to NP. Okay, what is N? It is total number of pigeonhole, and P is given by. So by substituting P by the given, it is M minus 1 divided by N. On simplifying that, what do we get? We get M minus 1. Okay, M minus 1. Is that the case? No, we have already said that we have m number of pigeons with that, but here this m minus 1 will contradict our assumption that m pigeons do present. So this particular thing fails. M minus 1 is not possible, so this fails. Hence our contradiction assumption is also fails. So the given generalization is true. The given argument is true. That is, m pigeons occupy n pigeonhole, where m is greater than n, then it should at least contain p plus 1 or more than that pigeons in the given number of pigeonholes. Clear? So m minus 1 is not possible. So this contradicts. So this fails. Hence our assumption here with the help of contradiction also fails. To understand the pigeonhole principle in more clear, we will consider the example here. We have it is given that there is a triangle. The triangle is equilateral triangle by name ABC. ABC is an equilateral triangle whose sides are of length 1 centimeter each. So when we say equilateral triangle, all these sides are of same length. If we select 5 points inside the triangle, remember that we have a triangle by name ABC which is of the nature equilateral, and we are selecting some random 5 points inside the triangle. Okay, inside the triangle, prove that at least 2 of these points are such that the distance between them is less than half a centimeter. Okay, half centimeter. So how do we do this? Basically, consider the triangle ABC. We try to write this something like this. Consider this as the triangle ABC of length 1 centimeter each. Okay, we will take the centimeters here, 1 centimeter each. Now, they said that we need to select 5 random points inside the triangle ABC. But before doing that, I will take the midpoints of each side of the triangle, that is AB, BC and AC, and I will try to join these midpoints here. So when I say midpoint, what is the length of the sides? What do you find here? We find 4 small equilateral triangles. How do we say this as the equilateral triangle? Because I have selected the midpoints of each of the sides of the triangle. Then midpoint is half centimeter, mid is half, the mid is half centimeter. In turn, this is half a centimeter, and in turn all the sides of the 4 small triangles what you find are of same size or of same length. Then we call these 4 triangles as 4 equilateral triangles. Clear? Now this given ABC is divided into the small, and I will label it as DEF for better understanding. So we have 4 triangles here, 4 equilateral triangles, and take these 4 equilateral triangles as 4 pigeonholes here. Okay, pigeonholes, and we have 5 points to be selected. Assume or take that 4 or those 5 points as the pigeons. Now we have 4 pigeonholes and I am trying to accommodate 5 pigeons in that. So 4 pigeons, I can place 1 pigeon in one of the pigeonhole, but the 5th pigeon has to be there within one of these 4 pigeonholes. So at least 1 pigeonhole will contain more than 1 pigeons in that. Now I have selected 5 random points within the given triangle ABC, correct? All the 5 points are within the given triangle ABC, and since we know that the size of these 4 small equilateral triangles are half centimeter, you select any point within these two, then the length of the distance between these 2 points will be less than or equal to half a centimeter itself. That will be less than half a centimeter. So hence it is proved by the help of pigeonhole principle. Next we will move on to the next topic, which is known as composition of functions. Okay. Now consider 3 non-empty sets A, B and C, and these 2 functions f, which is defined from A to B, and the function g, that is defined from B to C. Okay. We have 3 non-empty sets A, B, C and 2 functions, that is f from A to B and g defined from B to C. Now the composition, or we also call this as product, the composition of these 2 functions are defined by GOF, that is from A to C. The composition of these 2 functions f and g is given by GOF. This function is defined from A to C. Okay, that is something like GOF of A is in turn equals to G of f of A. Okay, this is nothing but GOF is nothing but GOF of A is equals to G of f of A. So pictorial representation of this, we can represent it like, we have 3 sets here, okay, that we have already mentioned. A, I have another set B, and the third set C, and I have a function f that is defined from A to B, I call this as f, and I have the another function that is g defined from B to C, and this is nothing but GOF. Okay, GOF from A to C. For the function where f is defined on A to A, okay, the function is defined from on the same set A, then FOF of this is given by f square, okay, and f of f square is given by f cube, and so on and so on, right. Then for any integer that is n greater than or equal to 2, for any integer that is greater than or equal to 2, the function f of n, the function f of n is given by f to the power of 1 is equal to f to the power of n is equals to f into f to the power of n minus 1. So for the integer n that is greater than or equal to 2, this we can define. We will consider the first example problem here. Let set A consist of elements like 1, 2, 3, 4, B consisting of A, B, C and C consisting of W, X, Y and Z, and we have 2 functions here, f defined from A to B and g defined from B to C. Given the definition of the function is also given, f is given, g is also given, you are supposed to identify GOF. We are supposed to identify GOF. So how do we do that? GOF of 1, because we know that this is the composition function that is asked. GOF, f is defined from a to b and g is defined from b to c. So it is a to c. GOF is nothing but the function from composition of function from a to c. So a, that is the 1 is the element of set A. So GOF of 1. So how do we define this? G of f of 1. So what do we understand? G of, what is f of 1? F of 1 is a, right? 1 is mapped to a under the function f. Now it is g of a. Now what is g of a? Where is the definition of g? Yeah, it is here. Under the function g, 1 is mapped to x. Clear? So by the definition or by the function GOF, composition function GOF, 1 is mapped to x, because this function GOF is defined from a to c. Similarly, for the remaining elements, GOF of 2 is equals to G of f of 2. What is f of 2 by the definition of f? It is a. So G of a, which is in turn equals to x again, right? Now GOF of 3 is equals to G of f of 3, which is equals to, by the definition of f, 3 is mapped to b. So G of b, what is G of b? It is y. GOF of 4, that is G of f of 4, that is equals to what by the definition of f? It is c. G of c is equals to z. Clear? We have the respective mappings under the function GOF. So how do we write this? I will put that here. GOF is equals to 1 comma x, similarly 2 comma x and 3 comma y and 4 comma z. This is GOF. You are supposed to identify GOF, you have it here. Consider the next example here. We have two functions here, f and g, defined by f of x is equals to x cube and g of x is defined by x square plus 1. These two functions are defined on the set R, okay, for all x that belongs to R. What we are supposed to find and identify? GOF, FOG, f square and g square. Okay, we will try to do that. Since the two functions f and g are defined on the set R, these functions like GOF, FOG, f square and g square are also defined on the set R itself, okay, because in turn f and g are defined on the set R. Okay, we shall see, we will try to find out. We will take first GOF. So by the definition of GOF, we already know that it is nothing but g of f of x. What is f of x in turn? F of x is x cube, okay, x to the power of 3. Now what is g of x? Whatever the value of x it is, g of x is x square plus 1. So how do we do this? How do we do this? In the place of x, it has to be replaced by x square. We have x, it has to be replaced by x square and plus 1. What is x here? It is x cube to the power of 2 plus 1. So this is in turn is equals to x to the power of 6 plus 1. Okay. Now consider the second, FOG, that is f of g of x. This gives into what is g of x? G of x is x square plus 1. Now what is f of x? F of x is f of x is x to the power of 3. Now what is x in turn here? What is x in turn? F of, instead of x we have x square plus 1. So how do we replace it? It is nothing but x square plus 1 whole cube whole to the power of 3, correct? Now what is the third one? It is x square. So how do we do that? At the time of definition we have noted that x square is nothing but f of f, correct? So how do we do this? This is of x, so it is f of x. F of x is nothing but x cube, you can use these small brackets here. Then again this is nothing but f of x cube is nothing but x cube to the power of 3. This is in turn is equals to x to the power of 9. Okay. The fourth one, what it is? It is nothing but g square. So it is GOG. So GOG of x. So how do we do this? It is g of x. So you know what is g of x already, that is x square plus 1. So g of x square plus 1. Now again we have the g on the same. Here it is x plus 1. So how do you define? How do you define? In the place of x we have x square plus 1. It is nothing but x square plus 1 whole square plus 1. The entire thing is considered as x here. So this is g of f, FOG, f square and g square defined on the set R. So we'll end this session for this point, and in the next we'll try to discuss about the invertible functions and further topics. Thank you.